everyone, welcome back. I'm out here enjoying this fine winter day. It's like 32, 33 degrees. It's not cold just because the wind's not blowing tremendously strong right now. We brought the Christmas tree out for the goats to have. It's a great way to recycle your Christmas trees. If you know anyone that has goats, as long as your tree wasn't sprayed with anything, be able to share it with all your goat friends. Sophie and Bob and Leroy absolutely love it. They were very excited to be let outside about it. They don't love the snow, but they love the tree. So today, I'm going to do a story time video to tell you how I got started with the goats. Goats were not in my plan, but goats ended up being a very large part of a little homestead here, which they make great compost, so like there's that. Other than that, they don't do anything else other than be cute. So they're really good composters. That's about all they do right now, especially Bob and Leroy. They are wethers, meaning they are neutered males. That's how they showed up to us, which I'm not upset about because boy goats that aren't neutered are stinky. Or at least they can be when they go into rut, because they get stinky. My wethers don't seem to have those habits, and it's probably because they were weathered at a young age. Therefore, they never really learned all those habits. Bob, stop eating my coat. Bob. Bob, believe it or not, actually didn't like people when we first got him. Like, wouldn't come near you, ran, did all he could do to get away from you. Whereas Leroy was the big sweetie. But we changed that simply because I gave Bob lots of hugs and loves, and he decided that he liked that. What are you eating now? So now he doesn't leave you alone. He's very much a in-your-pocket goat. Literally. Like, he will get in your pockets, if not eat all your hair. It's kind of funny. But Bob and Leroy were actually given to my dad the day of our wedding rehearsal. My dad had this big running joke that he wanted 2 goats or a donkey as dowry for the wedding. And Brandon's family decided it would be funny to actually get him 2 goats. So instead of borrowing or renting 2 goats from my aunt, who has 30-some Nubian goats, they decided to go buy a pair of mini goats. And they showed up at the farm that day, like Friday, the day of the rehearsal. They showed up with his uncle and aunt at the farm. Hid them at my grandparents'. It was supposed to be like a surprise for our side of the family, but it fell apart because we had all literally gone up to the farm to get chaff straw to put down in the tent to help soak up some of the moisture because it was a really wet year that year. And they all pulled in at the same time. So I didn't see the goats until we actually were at rehearsal. And they were really cute because I think Leroy was like 6 weeks old and Bob was 8 weeks old. And they were just so tiny and adorable. But my dad could not get over the fact that he got goats. With my birthday following a week after the wedding, and my dad having no idea what to do with 2 goats, I got 2 goats for my birthday. So in that same time frame, we were buying the house and the property we're at now, and we couldn't really just take 2 goats with us in June or July. So I sent Brandon on the project of building the goat shed in like a week's time in September, right after we got back from our honeymoon. And then we were able to make the goat shed. We ran down to Western New York, got the 2 goats, brought them home, stuck them in the goat shed, and then continued to make improvements on it as we've gone along. But it's worked out really well. Not Leroy. So it's been a lot of fun to have goats. I now feel like I have an addiction and I want hundreds of goats. Just all the goats. But I need a bigger barn before I can do that, which I hope to have one day. But we gotta work on that. Wait, Leroy? Yes. Yes. So, that's kind of how we get started with goats. Now, I've grown up around goats, and I know quite a bit, but I never had my own goat. My aunt just had goats. So, I've done a lot of learning. And if I'm lost or confused, I usually call her and consult the internet and YouTube. So Sophie came along in May this year. I told Brandon. I was talking to my phone again. I told Brandon I wanted a female goat. Someday. Meaning like years down the road when I had a barn. He took that as I wanted a female goat now. And looked at a bunch of them on Craigslist. And I was like, yeah, no, they're cute. Like, didn't say go buy it. Just said, it's cute. And on his birthday, he comes rolling up the driveway, lays on the horn. I look out the kitchen window, and this small, white, fluffy thing goes running by the window. And all I can think is somebody's little pet dog got loose. Wasn't a dog. Open the front door, and proceed to hear the goat screaming. So Brandon's like, surprise! And then I asked him if she was friendly. And he said, oh, I forgot that part. I forgot that we had to teach them that. I was like, cool. How are you going to catch her? Also, it's a good thing we don't live that close to a busy road. So, we were able to... I went out and got one of the goats and took it outside so that it would make noise. She heard it, ran over to see the other goat, and then we were able to, like, corner her into the goat shed and put her in the stall. But that was a lot of fun. So, it's been interesting, for sure. Hopefully we don't acquire any more surprise goats, and we acquire goats that we plan for. So all of that said, some of the key things you have to keep in mind if you're going to get goats is start with your infrastructure before you get the goats. You want to have some place to put them to keep them warm and dry, some place to put feed, a good source for feed, and then a plan for them to be outside too. We put this pen on this spring, and I was able to tie them out. We have a hillside, a steep hillside that we can't really mow with a tractor at least not very safely. So it's pretty easy to just let the goats graze on that. This year I had tires to tie them to, and then because we're all stuck at home, I was home all the time, you can keep an eye on them. I do plan to get some Premier One electronet fencing and try that this next year. I know I'm going to have to do a little bit of work, at least with a push mower, to mow wherever my edges are, wherever the fence is going to lay, but I think that'll give them a little bit more room to run around, which I'm going to like a little more. I don't know if they will. They probably don't care. You're going to want to have a good vet on hand, one that knows about goats, so not just like your dog, cat, small animal vet, and even some large animal vets don't necessarily do a lot with goats. So goats have gotten a lot more popular, and around here we have a couple of large farms that milk goats, and by large farms I mean pretty sure they milk 50 to 100 goats, which that's a lot of goats in my opinion. I know there's bigger, but to me that's a lot of goats. So we have vets around here that know a good amount of information about goats. I did make sure to reach out and find one that knew a lot about goats. It's good to have their number. It's good to have someone to be a mentor, or an expert that you can call that has had goats before. So someone like my aunt who's had goats forever, who's also a vet tech, or just someone in the neighborhood in the area is nice too, because that way they're right there if you need to call them and have them come look at an emergency situation. You're going to want to know either how to trim hooves or somebody that can trim hooves. And then make sure you keep track of their vaccinations if they are on a vaccination schedule. Like the goats get the CDT shot every year, and you have to keep track of making sure that's given annually, whether you do it yourself, which is pretty easy, or if you have a vet do it. Some people will do rabies shots for their goats, and then it's also important to keep an eye on them to make sure they don't need to be dewormed. It's best if you can avoid using chemical dewormers at all possible, but that said, life doesn't work in a perfect way, so one of your best options is to get a fecal sample done if you think your goats have worms or having an issue with parasites, so that you can treat the specific one. And then other than that, make sure you have a lot of time to have fun with them, because they're goofy little things. They're always looking for an adventure. They're going to eat any and every plant you have in a garden, so don't plant poisonous things if you can avoid it, or have a really good containment system for them. One of the two. Like mine really only go outside loose in the winter when there's enough snow to cover everything. During the summer, not so much the case, because I also like flowers and landscaping. And the goats do too, but they prefer to eat it. They don't like to just look. Leroy, you can't eat the camera either. No, you can't. No, you can't. I know you think you can. Little fluffy boy. Other than that, just try to have a lot of fun with them. They're cute, fuzzy creatures. Whether you go with Nigerian dwarfs, or pygmies, or Nubians, or alpines, La Manchas, whatever goat size you pick, or even meat goats, like the boar goats. Yeah, like boar goats. Any goats are a lot of fun to have around and can have a lot of purpose on a homestead. So, thanks for joining me for story time today. We'll catch up next week.